Now I get asked a lot, why did I sell my M235i for an M240i? Well, stay tuned, because today I'm going to tell you exactly why I swapped from an N55 to a B58. Now, a lot of you might think that I swapped to the dark side, as some people like to say, because the N55 is just not a good engine. And for anyone who is new to the channel, here's a clip of my M235i. Definitely one of the best sounding ones I've ever heard. So the big question is then, why did I get rid of my M235i for the M240i? I'll tell you exactly why right now. Well, in simple terms, the B58 in the M240i is just better. No, I'm only joking with you guys. Truthfully, the reason I swapped is because I wanted to try something different. I wanted to try the B58, and yes, at one point I owned 3 cars, and one of them had to go. Now you might be thinking, what 3 cars did I own? Well, I had this M240i, I also had the M235i, and I also had a Polo GTI, which is stage 3, and I still have that. And that's what I did. I got rid of the M235i in a swap for the Polo. Now, a lot of people might see this as a downgrade, but not to me. There was no point in my mind having 2 F22s or 2 series on the driveway. It made sense to get something different, and the Polo is an absolute animal of a car. We're not going to be talking about that today though. Today's talk is about why I sold the N55. And in some ways, I actually do regret it, because this thing, no matter how good people think the B58 sounds, it's never going to sound as good as my N55. And don't get me wrong, this car sounds absolutely incredible. It's got a full custom exhaust from the catback, and honestly, it's probably one of the best B58s I've ever heard. Now here's another thing to consider. I like tuning cars, and specifically, I like tuning cars with MHD. I find it very fun and very interesting to see what power I can get out of them. So that is why I've done modifications on this M240i. However, I kind of maxed the M235i out as far as I wanted to without going down the line of a pure turbo and different things like that. With this B58, you can get more power out of them, bolt for bolt, but obviously when you start upgrading them with actual high pressure fuel pumps and turbos, etc., they can kind of be quite even. And another thing I wanted to test out is the reliability. My N55 was absolutely amazing on reliability. I had 0 issues with it. It started every time. Another thing I was quite skeptical with though was the oil starvation issue. And yes, I tracked that car. I went around the Nürburgring 3 times, and I also did a lot of track days in the UK. However, it's always in the back of your mind just thinking, can I push this corner too hard without issues? And that is kind of one reason I went for the B58, is the fact that I can track this car and I can enjoy it as long as the oil is on maximum, and I shouldn't have to worry about oil issues like the N55 has. But then there is a catch, because I'm driving a car around a track which doesn't sound as good. So they kind of weigh each other out in regard that this may be a little bit better on track, but then the sound isn't as good. Now, in regard to the actual cars themselves, they're very, very similar. I both went for a 6-speed manual. I went for the ProNav, Harman Kardon, multi-function steering wheel. Basically, the interior is exactly the same, apart from red leather interior. Now, on the outside, you'll notice there's a few key differences. I've got different wheels. This is actually a mineral white instead of the Alpine white. And I've just kind of gone for a more black, silver, and white theme. Now, here's one thing we've got to look at, and this is the air intake on this car, because I didn't go for a very expensive air intake on the N55, whereas this B58 has had some money spent on it. Now, in my opinion, this is definitely one of the best air intakes for the B58. It is the full Venturi setup. This thing sounds absolutely phenomenal. In fact, I'll prove it to you guys. Let's hear it. Let's start this up so you guys can actually hear it. So before I do, I'll just tell you about the air intake that I ran on the N55. That was a standard airbox, but with an Venturi panel filter. There were no sound gains, it was purely for performance, and I do think that is definitely one of the best ways to get power out of these engines, is using the original airbox, but combining it with a very good panel filter. But now let's hear this car, and let's hear the air intake. Now, I will add, that air intake sounds 10 times better when the car is under load and when you're definitely having some fun with it. But do let me know, do you think that's worth £1,200? Let me know in the comment section. So here's something I want you guys to know. I didn't buy the B58 because it is the best engine in the world, because that's not true. And just the other day, I made a video on why B58 owners are delusional, because this engine is not bulletproof, as everybody seems to think it is. And social media has definitely bigged up this engine to be an absolute thing from heaven, where it's the most insane out-the-box engine and it has 0 issues, but that's not the case. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a very, very good engine, and I've had absolutely 0 issues with it in my ownership. So going back to the M235i, and I know a lot of keen viewers on the channel will notice that this is where I used to film all my videos with the N55, and now it seems like things have changed and it's been replaced. Which, you would be correct in thinking that. This car is very, very similar, and it looks very similar, but it's completely different. I had almost 2 years with my M235i, and it was for sure one of the best BMWs I've ever owned. This thing is another level, but I will admit, I definitely do miss the M235i. But I've said it before, and I will say it again. with the N55, because I found that engine to kind of be more of a naturally aspirated engine, it loved to be revved out and redlined and up in the high RPMs. It definitely had a lot more character. This thing with a B58, it feels like it's driving you. It kind of like is so easy to drive and so easy to get power out of. It just feels like a cheat code. And combining that with a manual, which is absolutely the best box I would ever combine with a B58. Don't get me wrong, the ZFs are insane. But if you look where I live, these type of roads, this is the best car to have with a manual. I just feel like this does a lot of the work for you, and it lacks that bit of character that the N55 has. So let's see then, does this car lack character, or is it just the way I'm driving it? Let's hop behind the wheel and find out. So first bit of character, let's start it up. And yes, it's still a 3-litre inline 6, so it's going to sound similar, but I will admit, it definitely doesn't sound as good. Now, the manual box is still something I absolutely love, and especially in my current circumstances where I live, I would definitely not consider an automatic at the moment. However, I will admit, I've lost plenty of races to automatic boxes because those things are unmatched when it comes to gear shifting quickly, especially if you tune them. Now let's put this thing into sport mode here and just give it a slight bit of tickle on the throttle. Yeah, it's fast, and arguably faster than my M235i, but that's a given because the B58 is the best engine in the world, isn't it? Well, you would be wrong. It's definitely not, but it is good. Now, another thing you guys might not know about my M240i is this car has come from the factory with EDC, electronic damper control. Now, what this does is when you put it in sport mode, it tightens up the chassis, and combined with the Bilstein B6 coilovers that I've got on this car, it is a weapon, and I can't wait to try it on track. And I do feel like I'm making this video a little bit prematurely. I haven't actually taken this car to the Nürburgring yet, or done on the UK track days, as it's winter now and everything is kind of calming down. However, I am going to make a review comparing both of them come the summertime when I've done the same things with both cars. That way it can be a fair test. But to answer the main question, and why you guys clicked on this video today, is why did I sell or swap my M235i for the M240i? And that is because purely I wanted to try something different. I'd done all the cosmetic modifications I wanted to do to my M235i, and I had done everything I wanted to do performance-wise without chucking crazy money into the engine. And yes, some of you might argue that I could have spent a lot more. I could have done high-pressure fuel pump, turbos, etc. But I kind of wanted to just try a different car entirely, and something with a little bit more power out of the box and more tuning potential, and just try a different engine completely. Now, I will admit, this was definitely a tough decision to make. I didn't want to get rid of the M235i. That car had a special place in my heart, especially for the sound of it. And I had spent a lot of time and a lot of effort underneath that car with modifications, fixing things, doing all sorts of maintenance, and I truly had a blast with it. Let's get one more pull here. That air intake amazes me every day. But now we've got the Polo on the channel too. There'll be more videos coming on that, and that thing is just insane. But to wrap things up, that's it basically. I couldn't have 3 cars, and I didn't see any point having 2 BMW F22s on the drive. If I had a hatchback, maybe a 135, or if this was an M140i, I could have justified it. However, I wanted to change things up completely. I wanted to get the Polo, the Volkswagen Polo GTI. It was mainly for my missus, and she's always wanted one of them, so it kind of made sense to get rid of the M235i for that, and then keep the 240 to have something absolutely insane on the channel with crazy power. But I would argue that that Polo is lighter, and it also has 330 horsepower, so combining that on a rolling race, I think this 240 might struggle. That Polo is not something to mess around with. It is ridiculously fast. But that's it, guys. I think we're going to wrap up today's video. Here's one thing the Polo doesn't have, and that is the interior that the BMW comes with. This thing is definitely the best interior I think BMW have ever made. And there we go. That's going to be it for today's video. Now, if you guys enjoyed it, you can give it a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe to see loads more B58 and M240i content. All the social medias are linked in the description, the TikTok and the Instagram if you want to give them a follow. And apart from that, let me know in the comments, did I make a mistake getting rid of the M235i for a Polo GTI or for this M240i, or have I made the right decision in going for a slightly different car with the Volkswagen and keeping a 2 Series on the channel? As always though, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.